Epilepsy is in Boxer again. A video with Epilepsy in Boxer? Yes. Yes, I'm always in Boxer. This is about gear. This isn't about Boxer. Alright. And there are a few things that I see a lot of people doing that worry me for their gear progression that I think could skyrocket your ability to gear many units and be able to actually hit great stats on your units without doing like getting grinds and stuff like that. And I think here is an actual perfect example of one of those things. If you had this screen, right, and you're farming Boxer all day, all the time, would you keep any of these pieces of gear? Would you roll them, or would you just sell them all? I think this is a really big thing that is important that people aren't really taking advantage of, and that is that 4-star gear has 5-star gear substats. It just has one less roll. And when you're going for speed, when you're going for really high speeds, you just want to go for, or things like luck, right? If you're going for, like this rune now, or this piece of gear now is trash. It's bad because it did not roll a bunch into speed or a bunch into luck rate, right? So now I don't want it. But it's a great example of a piece of gear that people would normally sell right away, not roll, and then possibly miss out on like a quad roll speed or like super crazy luck on a piece of gear that they would not have normally because they sell all of the 4-star legendary gear that is quite possibly some of the best gear they could have on their account. And I can actually take a look at an example of this. Let's see. Yeah. Well, this is actually okay. This is leftover runes. I mean gear. This was pretty sweet. It was +2. So, but where is that? Oh my gosh! I'm forgetting where all my gear is. But this guy right here, 26 on a 4-star piece of gear. That's insane. That's amazing. Like, if I got this and I was just selling all the 4-star legendary gear that passed through and everything, just selling everything under 5-star, I never would have gotten this rune that makes it onto one of my fastest sets. It's not quite my fastest, but it's up there just because I want to get that Inspire set, and I'm not hitting too many teams that can outspeed me, so it's totally fine. And another great example of this is not speed, but my slot 2 piece of gear on my bookworm. I got a couple days into playing, and I still use it now because that is insane. That stat is crazy. Like, I'm sacrificing 10% attack to get this crazy crit damage and crit rate and flat attack, right? So 4-star gear can be good. It really can be, especially you want to roll the legendary gear. I wouldn't roll anything under legendary, and you can't get 4-star brilliant gear. So I would just go for definitely always rolling your 4-star legendary gear. Now there are exceptions to that. An exception to that would be if the gear doesn't have any speed or really powerful quad rollable stat, or stats that don't really synergize well with each other. So like if I have a 4-star legendary piece of gear, I might have some, I don't know. So this I kept because it has speed. This because it has crit rate and attack. So like this could roll really well. And on the I don't think I'm gonna keep this now because that's terrible. But also the 135s, those are great to keep too because the substats aren't as intensely influential on your stat lines as the percentages. So you're doing way less harm by doing these 4-star flat stats. I think this goes up to 126 at 12, I think. So like this could theoretically be a very, very high speed rune. or a piece of gear. It's not going to be, but yeah, 126. But like this, on a lot of people's accounts, this would actually be a pretty good piece of gear that people would sell, right? And that's not, like, you're missing out on so much possibility there. Like, I have 24 crit damage here on just an extra piece of gear. This one, I got 11% luck rate on this. That's great for a PvE farmer, right? There's like some really great pieces of gear you can get that people are snap selling because it's 4-star. And when you have these gear stats that, it's like, I don't know, I might keep that. That's kind of okay, and it's Inspire, so yeah. But yeah, these certain pieces of gear that you're just snap selling because they're a lower star could possibly be insane. Like, this could be like 30-something% attack. It won't be, but 25. If it did one more roll and attack, I might keep this still though, honestly. This seems pretty sweet. I could use that on something. I have a little bit of something cooking with Fire Bookworm that I'm going to show in a later video. It's kind of like a rerun of a certain monster I already had a spotlight for, but it's a pretty cool combo, and I do want to show it because I just cleaved like 2 water units, I think, earlier with a fire. No crits, just Fire Bookworm and like tanky water units, so it was actually pretty cool. It's a neat combo. But you can see what I'm getting at with these substats being so powerful and the main stat being not that much weaker to where it is very, very worth it to check your 4-star gear. Another thing is too, people just struggle on which pieces of gear to keep or sell in general, like not just like stars or whatever, or that mistake, right? And a great rule of thumb is what you look at what this set is good for. You try and conceptualize it. Like, I can look at let's do a harder one. Let's do like Bash, right? I look at this set and I'm like, okay, this can add stun rate 20%. All right, what kind of unit do I want stun rate on? Things with multi-hits. Usually I want accurate units with stun runes, because usually you pair that with AoEs or like CC, and usually when you have a damage dealer, you're not trying to stun, you're trying to kill things. So usually I'd want maybe tankier stats on stun gear. Things like that, when you start thinking about like where you'd use this piece of gear and understanding maybe your unit box and what you're lacking in. So like, I'm looking here, I'm like, well, this fire specialist is on like Bash, right? But it's very bad, very bad gear. I'm using a 4-star. I could upgrade this actually, I think. But this is a good example of like something that might be in one of your guys' boxes. If you're not farming Boxer constantly or keeping the wrong room, pieces of gear, etc., well, this is a CC unit. This is an AoE damage, an AoE crowd control unit that I thought would have great potential with Bash, because it's not doing crazy damage. You're not trying to nuke the enemy down. You're trying to control them. So getting a Bash set and getting that stun rate is fantastic. And for a unit like this, I want high HP, high accuracy, high speed, right? Those are all things that I'm looking for. So when you're looking at a set like Bash, you gotta think about what kinds of units you have and what kinds of units you would want that set to be on, right? And what would maximize that set's potential. And also, that's not to say you should not keep like high damage dealing sets of Bash, because first of all, you can do broken sets, which are fantastic. I use broken sets on so many units, especially when my gear is spread a little bit thin. Let's see, do I have like, yeah, oh no, I don't actually have a broken set. I thought I had a broken set on him. No broken set. Well, I lied. Aha, there we go. Do I not even have the Swift? Oh, that's funny. I put an Echo piece of gear on instead of a Swift piece of gear because it looks like Swift to me because I'm blind. But wow, it's not too bad speed for not being on Swift. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked again. Using broken sets, you can get fantastic stat lines. Like, you don't have to really keep those set effects to really get good units. So keeping weird kind of pieces of gear that don't really make too much sense for the set still does make sense sometimes, but they usually have a slightly higher floor of being good than another set, because you're not getting that partial bonus of that set effect from that set, if that makes sense. Oh my gosh, that was a total word salad. But for example, if I have an attack percent bash gear slot 2 with crit rate, crit damage, speed, for example, that is an insanely good like power or fatal piece of gear, right? But it's not going to be as good as bash because that set effect is not as strong. My gosh, why is this popping up here? Oh, my phone's connected. Oh my gosh. Oh, you guys are seeing my Pokemon Discord. I gotta unlink my phone. Wait, it is unlinked. What's going on? Oh, link to Windows. There we go. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. Embarrassing. What is going on? Why is this showing up now? What? I'm gonna quit Discord. What the heck? Why are you messing with me, man? Why are you messing with me? Sure. I think that's fine. I think it'll stop now, maybe. But anyway, having the possibility for a set effect of a certain type of gear is, it basically tips the scale a little bit for how good that piece of gear is, right? It's another factor, but it's not the whole deciding factor of why you'd want to keep that piece of gear. I feel like I'm talking extremely confusing, but I'm trying to convey what I mean, but I feel like I'm just making word salads over and over again. But yeah, a high damage bash piece of gear is not going to be as powerful as a high damage power piece of gear because you're not getting that option to have that set effect. So that's a really big thing. And on the flip, if you get like a piece of Swift gear with like, this has 0 speed on it, but it's a very thick piece of gear, and I can get that maybe set effect of the speed just like as a bonus on it and not worry about the putting this necessarily on a super high speed unit. But I see a lot of people selling every piece of Swift gear without any speed on it, and that is not the right way to go about it, in my opinion. I think there are a lot of use cases for pieces of gear with 0 speed on it at all. There are so many bruiser units, especially in this game, that are so strong and don't need crazy speed to have effect on the game. It's like the battle. Like, so many units that just by sitting there have a crazy effect. Like this might be a bad example because it's an LD5, but he needs no speed, right? He doesn't need speed because whenever I'm hit with an AoE at all, he attacks back and he does damage. It's like the same thing with the tree bear. The tree bear, he does not need crazy speed. He gains attack bar from his passive, and I could stick a set of Swift on him, get a little bit of a speed bonus, and then basically just focus on a bunch of tanky stats, right? So there's so many options. You don't have to narrow your gaze down this little hole of this thing needs to be this and this and this. You have to think about the total potential of the piece of gear you're looking at. and all the different use cases you might have for it. Or you can create a little bit of a note of things that you're missing from your account and things that you're looking for, or like units that you really want to build but don't have quite the right kind of gear for it, and really watch out and take note of pieces of gear that you're selling and be like, wait, if I rolled that and it rolled, why is that still popping up? But if I rolled that piece of gear and it rolled like triple onto this, right? That actually would have been really good for this mon. So there's so many things you can pay attention to and take into account when you're actually looking at your pieces of gear. I'm going to do a single run of boxing and then talk about maybe the gear choices that appear, and maybe I can run through some of these and show you how I think about it whenever I look at gear. Hopefully there'll be like at least one decent option, because otherwise this would not be a good example. But I want to show you my kind of thought process, because I have a lot of different pieces of gear that are kind of weird, but I do end up using, like that last Swift piece of gear that did not have any speed on it. Granted, that is a brilliant piece of gear, so you would normally keep that, but I think it is a good example of gear that a lot of people would sell if it weren't brilliant, but I would keep because it has some potential in just the stats and like how they roll, and you can totally break up set effects. You don't have to be a slave to the set. Stats over sets is a total saying, and it really holds up. It's a very good saying. But here, okay, we got a couple options. Maybe an interesting conundrum here is these two, choosing between a 4-star legendary piece of gear, right, with a speed substat, which is paramount. That's like the most important substat you're looking for in 4-star gear, because when you get high stats on 4-star gear, it's kind of a bit of like a feels bad man a little bit, because you don't have that really big main stat to really emphasize how good those stats are. But here I got this luck rate, also this purple luck rate that could go high crit damage, or I got this 4-star gear, right, that could go high speed. And here I would always take the Inspire piece of gear here. I would always take this because the upside to this isn't as crazy. And first of all, it's a Swift with no speed, which I know I was just talking about, but it's luck rate, so you don't necessarily need like crazy stats with things with luck rate on slot 2. So I wouldn't really take this luck rate as a main stat. Usually means, well, it always means that you're using it on a dungeon unit, and a lot of dungeon units don't need crazy stats that are going to have a luck rate main stat, because you're already sacrificing so much from having no slot 2 basically for stats, that you're using it on supporting units that didn't need that slot anyway, right? So you don't need crazy stats on that. And it's not very exciting. I would definitely take this with the speed. And then you can also just reinforce right here and be like, well, does it roll the speed? No. Quad accuracy? No. Bye. But yeah, that's most of what I really wanted to talk about. I don't want to drag this out and bore you guys, because this is a very dense subject, and it's not that exciting. But knowing which pieces of gear to sell and which pieces of gear to keep is going to vastly increase the power of your account, because when you're selling pieces of gear or choosing pieces of gear that you probably shouldn't choose over another piece, it will make a very big difference long term, compounding over time on your account. Making the wrong choice too many times, I can do the same number of runs as somebody else and have the same luck, and if I'm choosing the wrong gear and they're choosing the right gear, I would have much worse gear overall, even though we got the same options, right? So it's one of the most important things in this game to know how to do, especially with the luck and everything, which is very different from a lot of gacha games. Here I would sell all of this. This is all crapola. But anyway, yeah, I wanted to go over that because a couple of people were wondering and were curious about this, which is good because you want to learn about this. This is one of the most important parts of the game. Gear is the most important part of the game. I'm totally like fighting uphill battles all the time with people with so many units, and because I outgear them, I can take them on, and a lot of the times I win. So definitely prioritize gear and really try and think about what you need, what your account needs. And a lot of the time our accounts need a little bit of everything because, I mean, this game just came out and everybody does need gear right now, even the weird pieces. So anyway, that's all from me. Kind of a shortish video today, but it's a really important subject that some people needed help on. Shout out Wild. Gave me this idea, so I appreciate you. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Bye.